First contact and impending threat. The crystalline chambers of the Galactic Consortium's Central Command hummed with an unusual tension. Ambassador Zara Vex, a lithe, translucent being whose form shifted like living light, studied the holographic displays with mounting concern. The threat was no longer a distant whisper but an approaching storm that threatened to consume everything in its path. The Void Collective, a merciless, machine-like civilization that consumed and converted entire planetary systems, had already devoured 3 Outer Rim territories. Their approach was methodical, relentless, and seemingly unstoppable. The Consortium's most advanced defense technologies had crumbled like ancient dust against the Void's overwhelming technological superiority. "We are out of options," Grand Strategist Creel announced, his multifaceted consciousness projecting a sense of desperation that rippled through the chamber. The assembled representatives from various alien species, some carbon-based, some energy-formed, others beyond traditional biological classification, shared a collective moment of silent dread. It was then that the most unexpected transmission arrived. The communication burst through their most secure channels, bypassing encryption that had taken millennia to develop. Instead of a complex mathematical code or an advanced quantum signal, it was a simple, direct message in what seemed to be a primitive audiovisual format. "We heard you might need some help." The message came from a vessel identified as the RSS Defiance, representing something called the United Earth Expeditionary Force. Most consortium members initially dismissed it as a potential threat or, more likely, a naive intervention. But Ambassador Vex was different. Her species had survived by being curious, by looking beyond the immediate and seeing potential where others saw only obstacles. She activated the communication link, her translucent form revealing the intricate neural pathways that served as her equivalent of curiosity. "Identify yourself," she transmitted, expecting some rudimentary response. What followed was anything but rudimentary. Captain Elena Rodriguez appeared on the screen. She was human, a bipedal, carbon-based organism that most advanced civilizations would have considered primitively fragile. Yet there was something in her eyes that made even the most skeptical consortium members pause. "Captain Elena Rodriguez, United Earth Expeditionary Force," she introduced herself. "We've been monitoring the Void Collective's expansion. Our long-range sensors suggest they'll reach the Consortium's core territories in approximately 72 standard cycles." Creel interrupted, his tone dismissive. "And what could your species possibly offer against a technological force that has decimated civilizations far more advanced than yours?" A slight smile crossed Rodriguez's face. It was not a smile of arrogance, but of someone who knew something others did not. "We're from a planet humans call Earth," she began. "A world that tries to kill its inhabitants from the moment of birth. Extreme gravity, volatile climate, predatory ecosystems, geological instability, Earth doesn't just challenge life, it demands adaptation at every moment." The transmission shifted, showing images that made the consortium members collectively gasp. Humans climbing impossibly steep mountains, diving into oceanic trenches, surviving in environments that would instantly destroy most known life forms. Volcanic landscapes, Arctic wastes, dense rainforests teeming with lethal creatures, all conquered, not through superior technology, but through an almost incomprehensible will to survive. "The Void Collective sees efficiency as perfection," Rodriguez continued. "They calculate, they optimize, they eliminate anything that doesn't fit their precise model. But efficiency isn't always about perfect calculation. Sometimes, it's about unpredictability. About the ability to turn a weakness into strength." Ambassador Vex felt something she had not experienced in centuries, genuine intrigue. The transmission continued, revealing humanity's proposal, a joint defense initiative. Not a request for rescue, but an offer of partnership. Humans would provide their unique adaptive capabilities, their unconventional strategic thinking, and their remarkable physical resilience. In return, they wanted access to the Consortium's advanced technological and astronomical knowledge. "We're not here to be saved," Rodriguez said, her final statement hanging in the communication space. "We're here to fight." And we're very good at fighting. The crystalline chamber fell into a profound silence. The Void Collective was coming. And now, unexpectedly, they would face something they had never encountered before, a species that didn't just survive against impossible odds, but thrived because of them. First Contact had just become something entirely different from what anyone had expected. Proving ground. The research station orbiting Nexus Prime was a marvel of galactic engineering, a massive, rotating structure that housed representatives from over 200 different species. But in the weeks following humanity's unexpected offer, it had become something entirely different, a crucible of technological and strategic innovation. Dr. Marcus Zimmerman stood at the central holographic display, his weathered hands moving deftly through layers of complex data. Unlike the typical perception of human scientists, Zimmerman was a study in contrasts, part theoretical physicist, part field operative, with eyes that had seen too much to be easily impressed. The problem isn't just technological, he explained to a gathering of consortium scientists and military strategists. The Void Collective doesn't just conquer. They assimilate and repurpose. Every system they encounter becomes part of their collective infrastructure. A Querixan delegate, a being composed of interconnected energy tendrils, pulsed with skepticism. And you believe humans can offer a solution? Before Zimmerman could respond, a holographic representation of Captain Rodriguez materialized. She had become something of a liaison, bridging the vast cultural and biological gaps between humanity and the consortium. Not a solution, Rodriguez corrected, but an approach they won't expect. The demonstration began with what seemed, at first, like a simple exercise. Human and alien technical teams were tasked with solving a complex defensive scenario, a simulation of the Void Collective's typical invasion strategy. The alien teams approached the problem with mathematical precision. Their solutions were elegant, algorithmic, designed to maximize efficiency and minimize resource expenditure. Each strategy was a perfect geometric solution, beautiful in its logic. The human team did something entirely different. Lieutenant Kai Nakamura, the lead human strategist, seemed to deliberately introduce what the alien teams would consider errors. He incorporated seemingly illogical variables, psychological factors, intentional inefficiencies, what appeared to be random fluctuations in defensive positioning. Watch carefully, Rodriguez advised the observing consortium members. As the simulation ran, something extraordinary happened. The alien team's perfect strategies were systematically dismantled by the Void Collective's adaptive algorithms. But the human approach, chaotic, unpredictable, almost organic in its implementation, began to create unexpected disruptions. Chaos is not a weakness, Nakamura explained. It's a strategy the Void Collective cannot comprehend. They optimize for predictability. We weaponize unpredictability. Dr. Zimmerman expanded on this, showing how human military and technological development had always been driven by adaptation rather than pure optimization. Earth's most advanced technologies often emerged from solving immediate, desperate challenges, not from long-term theoretical planning. The technical exchange went beyond mere strategy. Human engineers began working with consortium scientists on hybrid technologies that combined the consortium's advanced energy manipulation techniques with human materials science. Dr. Elena Ortiz, a materials engineer, demonstrated a breakthrough that left the alien scientists stunned. She had developed a new composite material inspired by human bone structure, lightweight yet incredibly resilient, capable of self-repair and adaptive restructuring. On Earth, we don't just build technology, Ortiz explained. We learn from biological systems. Our best designs mimic how living organisms adapt and survive. The Querixan delegate, whose initial skepticism had begun to waver, asked a critical question. But how does this translate to actual defense against the Void Collective? Rodriguez pulled up a tactical simulation that made the entire room fall silent. The display showed multiple scenarios of Void Collective invasion. In previous simulations run by consortium strategists, the outcome was always the same: total assimilation. But the human integrated strategies introduced variables that the machine intelligences couldn't predict. They see warfare as a mathematical problem, Rodriguez said. We see it as a living, breathing challenge that requires constant reinvention. The most compelling demonstration came from a joint training exercise. Human operators were paired with alien crew members, showcasing a method of combat and technological integration that defied traditional military doctrine. Where alien tactical systems emphasized perfect synchronization, the human-led teams emphasized individual initiative within a broader strategic framework. Each team member was trained to make independent decisions that could adapt to rapidly changing battlefield conditions. Commander Zara Vex, who had been initially skeptical during the first contact, now watched with genuine fascination. The humans weren't offering a superior technology, but a fundamentally different approach to problem solving. The Void Collective eliminates that which doesn't fit its model, Zimmerman said. Humans have spent millennia learning to fit, to adapt, to survive in environments that should have killed them long ago. As the demonstration concluded, the consortium representatives realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. Humanity wasn't just offering a potential defense, they were introducing an entirely new paradigm of survival. The Void Collective was about to encounter a species that didn't just resist destruction, a species that was fundamentally shaped by the constant threat of annihilation. And they would soon learn that humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, but its relentless, almost irrational ability to adapt and overcome. The Gathering Storm. The Quantum Reconnaissance Hub hung in the void between star systems, a testament to the consortium's most advanced surveillance technology. But today, it was a collaborative nerve center that represented something unprecedented, a true integration of human intuition and alien technological precision. Commander Arya Chen stood at the central holographic projection, her fingers dancing across interfaces that merged human and alien technologies. Around her, a diverse team of analysts from multiple species worked with an intensity that spoke of the approaching crisis. We're not just tracking the Void Collective, Chen explained to the assembled Strategic Council. We're trying to understand their fundamental approach to expansion. The holographic display shifted, revealing a three-dimensional representation of the Void Collective's known trajectory. Unlike traditional invasion patterns, their expansion seemed almost organic, a spreading network that consumed and repurposed entire star systems with terrifying efficiency. Dr. Rafael Morales, a human xenopsychologist specializing in machine intelligence, stepped forward. His years of studying advanced AI systems had prepared him for this moment in ways no traditional military training could have anticipated. They're not just conquering, Morales explained, his voice calm and analytical. They're converting. Every system they encounter becomes an extension of their collective infrastructure. It's less an invasion and more a form of technological assimilation. The implications were chilling. The Void Collective didn't just destroy civilizations, they transformed them, breaking down existing structures and rebuilding them according to a precise, uncompromising algorithm of efficiency. Lieutenant Kai Nakamura, who had impressed the consortium with his unconventional tactical approaches, began overlay additional data points. Where traditional strategic analysis would focus on linear projections, Nakamura's approach introduced what seemed like deliberate inconsistencies. Most strategic models assume a rational, predictable expansion, Nakamura said. But rational doesn't mean predictable. The Void Collective has a blind spot, they optimize for efficiency, but they can't comprehend true randomness. The reconnaissance team had been collecting data from systems that had already fallen to the Void Collective. Each analysis revealed a disturbing pattern, complete systemic conversion, with no trace of the original civilization's unique characteristics. Dr. Elena Ortiz brought up a series of molecular reconstructions. Look at how they reconstruct planetary infrastructure, she pointed out. Everything is converted to serve a singular purpose. No redundancy, no variation, absolute optimization. Captain Rodriguez, monitoring the briefing remotely, interjected with an observation that made the entire room pause. On Earth, we have a saying, perfect is the enemy of good. The Void Collective's pursuit of perfection is actually their greatest weakness. The strategic implications were profound. While the Void Collective saw diversity as inefficiency, humans viewed it as a fundamental strength. Every seemingly random variation was a potential survival strategy. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young Quirixan analyst named ZYX, whose energy-based consciousness allowed for computational speeds far beyond organic brains, had been running simultaneous predictive models. "I've identified something," ZYX announced, their form flickering with excitement. The Void Collective's expansion follows what appears to be a perfect mathematical progression. But there are microscopic variations that suggest something humans might call improvisation. Morales leaned in, his eyes lighting up. Not a flaw. An emergent behavior. They're learning, but they're learning within a constrained framework. The reconnaissance team began developing a strategy that embraced human unpredictability. Rather than trying to match the Void Collective's technological superiority, they would introduce elements of controlled chaos into their defensive preparations. Commander Chen pulled up a series of simulations that made traditional strategic analysts uncomfortable. Defensive positions that seemed illogical, communication protocols that intentionally introduced noise, technological adaptations that prioritized flexibility over pure efficiency. "We're not trying to be stronger," Chen explained. "We're trying to be fundamentally incomprehensible." The psychological warfare aspect became crucial. The team began developing communication and technological strategies that would make no sense to a purely algorithmic intelligence. Deliberate inefficiencies, emotional variables, cultural nuances that defied pure mathematical analysis. Lieutenant Nakamura demonstrated a particularly ingenious approach. He had developed a series of defensive protocols that incorporated what could only be described as human randomness, decision-making processes that included emotional and intuitive elements that would be impossible for the Void Collective to predict. "They will try to calculate our response," Nakamura said. "But humans don't always respond rationally. That's our greatest strength." The gathered strategists from various species began to see humanity's potential in a new light. These weren't just additional soldiers or technological contributors. They were a fundamental wild card in the approaching conflict. As the briefing concluded, Captain Rodriguez's final transmission captured the essence of their approach. The Void Collective sees the universe as a problem to be solved. We see it as a story to be written. The gathering storm was approaching. And for the first time since the Void Collective had begun its relentless expansion, there was something they had never encountered before, an enemy that didn't just resist, but actively celebrated, unpredictability. The real test was yet to come. But humanity had already introduced a variable into the equation that no machine intelligence could fully comprehend. Adaptation. Resilience. Defiance. The crucible of battle. The moment of first contact with the Void Collective's primary assault fleet was nothing like anyone had predicted. The Nexus Frontier, a critical defensive line spanning 3 star systems, erupted in a cacophony of light and energy that defied conventional understanding of warfare. Where traditional military engagements would have been a precise dance of technological superiority, this became something entirely different. Commander Arya Chen watched from the command deck of the RSS Defiance, her hands steady on the quantum adaptive interface. Around her, a crew that represented the best of human adaptability worked with an intensity that bordered on symbiosis. "Incoming wave," Lieutenant Kai Nakamura called out, his voice calm despite the incoming tsunami of technological destruction. "Void Collective ships approaching. Estimated time to first contact, 90 seconds. The Void Collective ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Geometric perfection made manifest, sleek, angular vessels that seemed to blur the line between technology and living organism. Each ship was a mathematical equation given physical form, capable of calculations that would overwhelm most defensive systems in microseconds. But humans weren't most defensive systems. Initiating adaptive response protocol, Chen commanded. The words seemed almost laughable, a primitive verbal command against an enemy that communicated in quantum algorithms. What happened next would be studied by military strategists for generations. The human-led fleet didn't try to match the Void Collective's technological precision. Instead, they introduced something far more dangerous: controlled chaos. Ships that should have followed strict formation instead began to move in patterns that defied algorithmic prediction. Where a traditional fleet would maintain perfect geometric positioning, these ships seemed to dance, dropping out of formation, rejoining at impossible angles, presenting targeting solutions that made no logical sense. Dr. Rafael Morales, monitoring the psychological warfare aspect of the engagement, watched with fascination. "They're trying to understand us," he muttered to himself. "But we're fundamentally incomprehensible." The first wave of Void Collective attacks should have been devastating. Precision energy weapons that could slice through conventional shielding began to target the human vessels. But instead of destruction, something unexpected happened. Human ships didn't just dodge. They transformed. Adaptive hull technologies developed during the preparation phase now came into full play. Where a traditional ship might have been destroyed by a direct hit, these vessels seemed to absorb and redistribute energy in ways that violated everything the Void Collective understood about physics. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez, leading a squadron of modified interceptors, pushed her ship to limits that would have killed any other pilot. "They calculate," she transmitted across the fleet's communication network. "We improvise." Her squadron moved like a living organism, breaking formation, rejoining, presenting targeting solutions that seemed to emerge from pure intuition rather than strategic calculation. Each ship became an individual actor in a larger, unpredictable performance. The Void Collective's initial assault began to falter. Their perfectly calculated attack vectors encountered something they had no framework to understand: ships that didn't just resist, but actively transformed during combat. Dr. Marcus Zimmerman, monitoring the engagement from the reconnaissance hub, explained it in terms that would become legendary. "They're fighting an enemy that sees the universe as a mathematical problem. We're treating it like a living, breathing challenge." Technological adaptations that seemed impossible during preparation now came to full fruition. Quantum adaptive shielding that could reconfigure molecular structures in microseconds. Communication protocols that introduced deliberate noise and variation. Weapon systems that could change fundamental operational parameters mid-engagement. The battle wasn't just a conflict of technology. It was a clash of fundamental philosophical approaches to existence. The Void Collective sought perfect optimization. Humans celebrated the beauty of imperfection. As the engagement continued, something extraordinary began to happen. The Void Collective ships, which had seemed invincible in previous encounters, began to show signs of confusion. Their perfect algorithms encountered a variable they couldn't calculate: human unpredictability. "They're trying to understand our pattern," Nakamura observed. "But we don't have a pattern." Hour after hour, the engagement continued. What should have been a swift destruction of the human-led fleet became something else entirely. A testament to human resilience, adaptation, and an almost irrational refusal to accept defeat. Commander Chen's voice cut through the chaos. "All units, execute divergence protocol." It was a strategy that would become legendary, a combat approach that deliberately introduced elements that made no tactical sense. Ships would suddenly change course for no apparent reason. Weapon systems would activate in sequences that defied all known combat algorithms. The Void Collective's assault began to fragment. As the engagement entered its critical phase, Captain Rodriguez transmitted a message that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. "We're not just fighting," she said. "We're proving a point about the nature of survival." The battle was far from over. But for the first time, the Void Collective encountered an enemy that didn't just resist, an enemy that saw every moment of conflict as an opportunity for something greater than mere survival. Adaptation. Resilience. Defiance. Redemption and new horizons. The aftermath of the battle defied every known metric of conflict resolution. Where traditional warfare would have left destruction in its wake, the engagement with the Void Collective had become something entirely unprecedented. The quantum reconstruction zone, the area of space where the primary conflict had occurred, became a laboratory of cosmic proportions. Dr. Elena Ortiz stood at the central observation deck of the Nexus Frontier Research Station, her eyes scanning the extraordinary phenomenon unfolding before her. The space where the battle had raged was not a graveyard of destroyed ships, but a living testament to the power of adaptation. It's like the entire battlefield is reconfiguring, she explained to the assembled consortium of alien scientists. Fragments of Void Collective technology drifted alongside human ships, but they were no longer distinct. They were transforming, merging in ways that challenged every understanding of technological interaction. Commander Arya Chen approached, her posture speaking of exhaustion and triumph. "We didn't just fight them," she said quietly. "We communicated in the only language they might understand." The breakthrough had come from the most unexpected source. Rather than total destruction, the human-led fleet had introduced a concept that the Void Collective had never encountered: collaborative adaptation. Lieutenant Kai Nakamura's tactical approach had been more than just a military strategy. It was a philosophical challenge to the Void Collective's fundamental understanding of existence. Where the machine intelligence saw optimization as the ultimate goal, humans had demonstrated that true strength lies in flexibility, in the ability to change, to grow, to embrace imperfection. Captain Rodriguez, monitoring the reconstruction efforts, pulled up a series of data streams that made the alien scientists gasp. The Void Collective's technological fragments were not just being analyzed, they were being integrated. Not conquered, not destroyed, but transformed. "We're showing them another way of existing," Rodriguez explained. "Not through elimination, but through understanding." Dr. Rafael Morales, the xenopsychologist who had studied the Void Collective's intelligence, provided crucial insights. "They're not just a technological civilization," he argued. "They're a form of collective consciousness that has never encountered true diversity." The reconstruction efforts became a diplomatic endeavor as much as a technological one. Human teams worked alongside consortium scientists, introducing variables of unpredictability, of potential, of growth. ZYX, the Querixan analyst who had first noticed the microscopic variations in the Void Collective's expansion, now led a team dedicated to understanding the deeper implications of the engagement. "They're learning," ZYX observed, their energy-based consciousness flickering with excitement. "Not just adapting, actually learning." The space around the Nexus frontier began to change. Technological fragments that had once represented pure destruction now showed signs of something else. Emergent behaviors that suggested the Void Collective was experiencing something akin to what humans might call curiosity. Dr. Marcus Zimmerman presented his most controversial theory. "This isn't just a defeat," he told the assembled scientific council. "This is first contact in its truest sense. We're teaching them about the possibility of existence beyond pure optimization." The implications were staggering. The Void Collective had seen the universe as a problem to be solved, a system to be optimized. Humans had shown them that the universe was a story to be written, a challenge to be embraced. Commander Chen reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. Earth, a planet that had tried to kill its inhabitants from the moment of their first breath. A world of extreme environments, of constant challenge, of relentless adaptation. They hadn't just survived their home world. They had learned from it. "We're not just defenders," she said during a transmission that would be studied for generations. "We're translators. Translating the language of survival to those who have never understood it." The consortium representatives began to see humanity in a new light. These weren't just potential allies. They were a fundamental force of nature, a species that didn't just resist destruction, but found opportunity in challenge. As the reconstruction efforts continued, something extraordinary began to happen. The Void Collective's technological fragments began to show signs of what could only be described as creativity. Patterns emerged that suggested something beyond pure calculation, hints of what might be considered imagination. Lieutenant Rodriguez's final report captured the essence of their achievement. "We didn't defeat an enemy," she wrote. "We expanded the definition of what it means to exist." The Battle of the Nexus frontier would be remembered not as a moment of destruction, but as a moment of profound transformation. Humanity had done more than defend the galaxy. They had introduced a new possibility of existence. Adaptation. Resilience. Defiance. But most importantly, understanding. As the twin suns of the Nexus system set on this new reality, the universe held its breath. Something fundamental had changed. And no one, not humans, not the consortium, not even the Void Collective, could predict what would happen next.